Hey there, fellow animators, and welcome back to my channel, Fergus 3D. Today I'm going to go over what I think is a pretty crucial but sometimes overlooked part of animation, which is the blink. Now, if you're new to the channel, I provide, when I can, tutorials on, walk cycles, workflow videos, anything I find useful for beginners, as well as some other personal animation that I work on in my free time. I work in television, so I am quite busy. So my upload schedule is kind of sporadic, but I am trying to work on that and get more of a rhythm going. But so before we jump in, please make sure you subscribe and like the video because it really helps me. And yeah, let's jump into animating a blink. Okay, so this is the animation that I did earlier. I'll just play it for you quickly. Cool. So there is actually, 4 blinks in this animation. Let's go through them one by one. And the first blink is a very standard vanilla blink. So you pose out your face, nice nice eye shape and everything, and then we start the blink. So this is frame 1, open eye, and then normally the best way to close the eye is over 3 frames. I think anything more, you're gonna start doing a stylized blink, or things will look a bit floaty. So normally the eye should close in about 3 frames, including the open frame. So frame 1, open. Frame 2 is a very sort of subtle change. It's just slowly starting to close. Then by frame 3, this is when the eye is actually completely shut. So this is basically 1 is open, and then you got 3, it's closed, right? And then you want to hold the closed eye for at least 2 frames. So frame 4 is also closed. You can see if I go to the next frame. It's closed. But see how the face is compressing down? The whole thing is coming down still onto this shape. Because the whole muscle is like squeezing and compressing. You want to hold that compressed shape and continue into the compression for 2 frames. So yeah, I'm compressed down. So now it's on frame 4. And then you can start to open the eye. So I've started with a very, very, very small slit. You want to slowly ease out because now the face is relaxing, right? You've done the blink and now the face is going to relax back to neutral. And then you can be a little bit slower with the timing of the opening of the eye. So normally by about frame 15 or so, in my case, frame 7 or frame 8. The eyes open around about 90% of the way. So you want to have it go slowly opening up. And then for around about, you could say 5 more frames. See how there's a slight ease out with the whole expression? So about frame 20. So this is now frame 15 in total. The eye is now open again. So just to check, you got frame 1, it is open. Frame 3 and frame 4, the eye is closed. Then by about frame 7, it's open again, but around 90% open, not completely open. Then by frame 15, it's back to being open again. This is the average timing I would use for my blinks. This helps you get the compression, helps audience read the blink, and then it relaxes the face. This section here, you can definitely be a bit more flexible with. Maybe go for 6 frames, 7 frames, but the ease out can be a bit more flexible. The rigs sometimes have different eye shapes, different eye sizes, so you can play with the timing of that. But that's how I would do the vanilla blink for the timing. Now, you can see here, of course, that I use a pretty similar timing for when I want to do a big compression and then a big open sort of timing. It's not really any different. The difference really is you need something to anticipate the motion. So here I've definitely used the eyes. The eye dart is what leads the action. And that's how I've started the animation. So the eyes move quite quickly and they compress with the face. And I've held this again for, it's 2 frames. 1 frame this time. Because it's a bit more of a quicker motion. So that you can kind of do 1 frame here. It's a whole massive compression. So I've gone for 1 frame. But it's still very, very subtle. You can see how it's still basically closed. But if you play it at speed, it still reads. Because the whole face is compressing, it's a bit easier to get away with 1 frame. And then I guess just like I have for the vanilla frame, I want to go to about 90% and I want to ease out slowly. And then I can relax the eyes and I can then go into the half blink. Now the half blink, I think, is something people get wrong quite a lot. Half blinks are used quite often, both in real life and also in animation. They're a way of just adding extra sort of character to your animation. So here I want to basically change poses, but a full blink might feel a little bit too heavy. Like I'm not really blinking. I kind of more softening the expression, right? So I go from my night open and I basically go to about halfway, to about here. But what's important is I'm leading this with anticipation, right? So I'm anticipating the half blink, like going up into this out pose, and then I'm sort of collapsing into this nice soft, sort of touching the pupils pose. The pupils should be touching. And then you can ease out into the nice eye pose. And then the same thing for the final half blink. It's kind of the same idea. This time the anticipation is the eyebrows are closing. The eyebrows close first in this one. They lead the action. And then I kind of compress, not completely, but I definitely go quite close. And then I open into back to default. So half blink is used quite a lot when you want to just maybe do a very small expression change, or even to use it on speech in dialogue. You can like accent certain words with a half blink, like hi. There's definitely a good animation. I think it's is it what's the Pixar movie? Maybe it's called not Soul. But anyway, they use blinks a lot in that movie, and half blinks are used quite a lot for emphasis on certain words. So there's many ways you can use blinks, but accents and changing expressions is the most common. So just to recap this whole video, you got a vanilla blink without timing, and then you have half blinks, which can be used to sort of shift between expressions. So let's use this information. I'm going to jump into my Maya file, and we can open up Jules, a different rig, and animate a blink together. So let's look at the controllers. So first of all, you can make a nice pose. I'm going to make a fairly standard pose. You can pose the eye how you want to pose the eye. If you want to animate anything, with these controllers to make a nice eye shape, go ahead. I'm going to stick to default for this pose just so I can make it very quick and simple. So the eyelid. Let's start with the eyelid. Just key everything quickly so I have everything locked down. So let's key everything here, frame 1. And I'm going to go to frame 10 and do the same pose just to have a moving hold. Okay, so frame 10. Let's have the eye open. And if you look at the section before, I said let's have a 3-frame blink. Hard to say. 3-frame blink. So let's do the extremes. So I want to have the extreme on 12, right? So open eye, then it's nearly open, and then fully closed. And then also have the compression as well on frame 13. So let's close this eye on frame 13. This is the extreme. And I want it to be pretty down. And I want to bring the other eye up as well a little bit. So this is going to be up slightly. And that can be a fairly nice, that's good I think. Cool. That can be our compression frame. I'm going to animate the other eye later, but we can copy and paste it later, right? So let's just do left eye. So that's a nice compression. And then we want to have about 4 or 5 frames slowly opening to 80%. And then we have the ease out for 5 frames more. So let's go to frame 17. And then we can go to about 90% open. So that's about 90%, I guess. Let's have a look, compare. That's 100. That's 90. Go a bit more. And then let's have a look at this. That's 90. And that's down. So let's go back down. The lower lids will, of course, they will settle quicker because there's less space to go, and also they're kind of more relaxing. Let's look at the timing quickly before that. Let's look at see how it looks. Yeah, the timing looks fine. Let's also animate the ease out. Let's go to frame 23 maybe. And then animate the same as frame 10. Let's do it frame 23. And do the same thing for frame 10 and frame 23. You can even do this one at frame 21, 22, just to have it slightly quicker. But for now, let's keep the timing the same. Later on, we can offset things. So, let's open up the graph editor and let's do these compression frames now. Let's do it together. Okay, so we can see here that this is the top. I think this actually needs to be a little bit, right? Because of course, we want this to mostly open, but there needs to be some ease out here. So that's what we want. Now, as we said earlier, we need to have this already closed, right? If you have too many frames of it slowly closing, it feels too sort of soft. So I'm going to key frame 12 at the same time. So I want to make sure that the upper lids are doing the majority of the work, right? So these are coming down and they're going to match the same, or at least the similar sort of pose as frame, what's it called? Frame 14. So let's do this. Now, because the lower lids, they're going to come up and they're going to be compressed. I'm actually going to animate the extreme for the lower lids on frame 12. So these come up, they can match the eyes, so you get this blink, that's a default. And then these, of course, come down. Or maybe even, yeah, so that's about right, I think. So now you see how frame 12, we have the nice closed frame, but then frame 13 is the compression of that. There's a compression frame there, right? Now we can add to this compression by using the eyes. Now most rigs will have a sort of fleshy eye controller. So here, fleshy eyes. Basically what that means is when the eyes are moving, that the eye geometry or the eyeballs will kind of follow that. And I think that's good. I think having it at a low value is better than a high value, but having it off is bad because having it off means you have to do everything yourself and that just takes time. I have this at 0.1. I mean, you can change it depending on the animation. For this simple blink, you see I've got fleshy eyes, 0.1. That's what you need. If I move these eyes now, you can see the eyes kind of, the skin follows slightly. You see, they look at these controllers here. And again, they're following the eyes. So that means we can use this as well to get some compression in the eye mask. So the way I like to animate the eyes is if the eyes are going to be compressing, they're also going to be following the kind of the eyelids, the upper eyelids, which means I can then use frame 11 and the eyes can kind of follow the eyelids down. They can kind of slowly look down as you're animating this. So I go down to frame 13 to get the extreme and I can animate this in. I can go down a bit and then you can look at this eye to see what's going on. But yeah, basically I'm animating this down, so that's coming down. Cool. Okay, let's fix this other frame because, of course, if you remember from the video before, we need to have this frame. It needs to be basically the same as frame 1. So I'm going to key this again. I like using keys, even for other animation things as well. I just like to lock things down. So I'm going to use a key and make sure this is looking pretty nice. So we have this nice, slow ease out, and then a smashing down, like a really big change to the close frame, and then the compression, and then ease out. So see how this also means the eyes are moving too. But I think the eyes just kind of stick to the eyeballs. I'm gonna also key this and move this back up a little bit. I don't want the eyes to like be like wandering around the skull. I want them to kind of be stuck to the top of the lids. It helps it feel a bit more connected. Yeah. Of course, this pose is fixed as well. Maybe 22. Move this back up. Maybe we can have a different looking over in the distance. I'm not focusing on face posing here, by the way. This is a really ugly pose. I'm just focusing on the blink mechanics. But your animation, make sure you have nice posing for the face as well. Okay. Now I'm actually going to copy frame 22 and move it back to frame 15. So you have... sorry for that. So we have a nice... sort of... Yeah. Cool. Okay, so this already starts to look pretty decent. If you look at the timing and the squash and stretch. Cool, yeah. So the eye is kind of following. And actually, we can maybe change these eyes a little bit. We can make it so they're stuck down a little bit more. So maybe this pose, they can be down a bit lower. So you want the pupil to kind of be more visible. Just so the eyes are opening quicker, essentially. So then we can maybe have frame 17. That can be the same as frame 22. You can have a fully open. Cool. That's the arc of the eyes. Yeah, let's put better. Cool. Okay, so now we have the main eyelids done. Let's look at the black control. This is the bit that controls this outer eye area, the eye mask. So that starts off by selecting both controllers. I'm going to set the same timing. So I want frame 0, of course, frame 10, and do the extreme from 13, 17, and 23. Okay, so we can go to the graph editor, and I'm going to select translation Y. And for the extreme, of course, let's do this in the viewport. This is going to come down because everything is compressing. Just select the black one and bring this down. So sometimes the rig doesn't update. I'm going to let it update. It's a bit annoying. There we go. Cool. So thing about there, we can always change this later. I'm going to select these and put this back to 0. Actually, I don't like that. I want it to be 0. And we also need to have the same sort of timing as the red upper eyelid controller. So look at this curve. On frame 12, this is going to be coming pretty close to the same. Same at frame 13, it's going to be pretty close to the up pose. And then we have the nice timing, and then we have the same kind of feeling as before. This is a bit too high, bring this down a bit. Just a tiny bit. So maybe too much, we can change it. Nothing's actually okay. Alright. Yeah, it's actually okay. It feels like it's moving. They're connected and it feels together. Cool. Cool. Okay, let's look at the eyebrows now, because that's the next thing to animate. And normally you can animate the big control moving everything together, but this means that they're one big stick, and I don't like that. I want to animate the individual parts of the eyebrow separately. So the inner and outer. There's this circle controller, and there's one in the middle, and there's one here, which auto animates the eyes. This is basically the same as animating the big one. So let's make the same timing again. So we go frame 1, frame 10 to the extremes, and then the extreme, and then the ease out. So we have these timings. So again, this is going to be the same, right? We're going to bring down this controller, and I'm going to animate these in the viewport separately, so I have a bit more of a control over the pose. And I think the general rule of thumb for animating eyebrows is if the eyes are closing or the eyes are coming down, then the inner eyebrow is leading. They're pulling the rest of the face down. But if you're raising the eyebrows, then the middle eyebrow that can lead, and you can drag the tips up. It's not a hard rule. You can change this up and do what you want. But I think if you don't know what to do, that's a general rule of thumb. Just do that way, and it looks nice. So I want to also make sure that when you are bringing them down, they're gonna come in as well. So you drag it in a little bit, not too much, just a little bit. This might actually be too much, to be honest. We can see. And then we're going to go back to the graph editor to make sure these ease outs are still being applied. More. And then we can also potentially bring this down a bit more as so it feels a bit more compressed. Right, let's have a look at what this looks like. Cool. Yeah, so that feels okay. So the translation X is clearly broken. There we go. Yep. That needs to be a bit softer because it's coming being a bit too harsh right now. Okay, so that the actual motion is there. We can do the timing later, as I said, but the motion is there. Cool, and let's also do the same for the cheeks. Now, I know that if you look at this controller, there is actually the extreme on the frame 12. I'm actually going to copy the timing for the upper eyelids, though. Because I want the compression to happen at frame sort of 13, and this is still going to be compressed together. So if you imagine that this is one big piece, which is kind of true, it is one big piece. You've got the whole thing here, one big piece, like sunglasses. The compression happens this way, right? So even if the middle bit is still going to go down, the overall eye mask is going to be still going up. So I'm going to compress the cheeks using the upper eyelids timing. It just helps with, I guess, making things feel connected still. So I'm going to do that. So let's look at the cheeks and then set the timing again. So from 13, 17, and 23. Cool. Again, let's animate this time. So let's go to the translation Y, go to frame 13, and it's going to come up, right? Let's do it in the viewport. So, let's select both, select one. Sometimes turning off texture mode helps a little bit. Oh no, that's now this rig is pretty okay. Now also over animating is something you can do, so making sure it is actually moving. It's always easier to over animate and then make it smaller than it's to go small and go big. So always over animate if you're unsure, you can take it back later. Let's get this timing as well, ease out. I mean, I know also, I'm aware that people might be saying to me, oh, you can just copy and paste the curves, like, you know, Control Z and Control V, like this. I know you can copy and paste curves, but for this tutorial, I want to make sure everything's done manually, so you can see how I think. Okay, so that's obviously too much, isn't it? There's way too much. Let's bring it all the way down, and then move this down as well. Oh, this one. I think it's still too much. It's down. Let's back up. Let's have a look. It's so subtle. Yeah, it's so subtle, but you can feel it. It's so subtle, but you can feel it. Cool. Okay, so I think now, at this point, we actually have the main parts of the blink. If I was doing a full animation like you saw in the other video, then I would definitely animate the mouth and the nose, and I would maybe do a different face pose, but I'm just focusing on the mechanics of the blinks. I'm going to ignore the mouth for now. Cool. Okay, so let's do some timing changes now. So, I like to try and offset things going out. So let's keep the eyes the same, of course. Let's look at the black controls. Offset. Okay, so I haven't actually animated the bottom black because I don't think we need to. So maybe we should. Let's do the cheeks and this together. I think this should be the same. So copy this. 14. I think this will be very, very subtle. So let's do this tiny change. A really small change. Yeah, maybe. Just see what that looks like. I know it looks nice, but better. Okay, cool. Okay, timing. So, yeah. So I think if you take these controllers and you offset by 1, this, it's gonna feel too disconnected now. Yeah, you see how they're separate and they don't feel like they're actually working together. Like when this moves down, like this is still up here, which is gonna be strange again as it's already moving. They should be fairly similar. So Animate does have a trick for offsetting by half a frame, but that obviously isn't possible in Vanilla Maya. So I'm going to do Vanilla Maya first and show you how you can do it later. So in Vanilla Maya, all I would really do is use the graph editor. And I would go into this curve for the black one, and I would just change it manually. So I want this to kind of start a bit later. Maybe you pull this up, maybe bring this down a bit. And you can potentially maybe offset this 1 frame by 1 frame, which means it's still going to close rapidly. So it's not like it's not following. It is following the eyes, but it stays compressed a little bit longer. And then maybe this one you can actually ease out quicker to catch up to the top. Again, you got to play with this. Each rig has different timing. You can see how it's offset now by a little bit. It's hard to see, but it is. See, yeah, see how on frame 14 it sticks as the eyes open, but then it still follows and matches at the same time. So you can feel that if you play at speed. Cool. And I think let's go up to the eyebrows now. So the eyebrows are a bit different and a bit tricky sometimes, because I want the eyebrows to also be separate from themselves. That makes sense. So they have to be offset from the eye, either faster or slower, as in later or earlier, but also offset from each other. Because again, if I move them all together, it's going to be one big line, which doesn't feel nice. So as I said, I want the eyebrows to be dragging on the way up, and I'm going to actually stick to that the whole way through. So I think I can take the inner eyebrows and offset this by 1. Now, as I want the inner eyebrows, so the middle eyebrows, I want them to lead on the way up. I'm actually going to have this sort of anticipate the motion. I'm going to put this back by 1. So behind. They're going to be leading this, and they're also going to anticipate the blink as well, so that the audience can see the blink coming as the eyebrows move by a frame, which is subtle, but it does help. And then the outer one I'm going to leave the same because it's kind of more like stuck on the edge. So to check, this one is earlier, and this one here is later. So it should help that the eyebrows now should feel a bit more separate. So look at that. Yeah, not too bad. Cool. You could even take the now rotation Z, and you can copy this curve. I'm going to copy this curve because I think it's quite nice to show you this. Copy the curve. You can take it, or you can snap the buffer first, just to snap buffer so you can see where it was. And then go to frame 0. You can paste this curve. So here is the buffer. We can see exactly what it was like. So this is not too bad. Maybe I'll scale this down a bit more. Yeah, so it has a little bit, a flick up. It curves up into the eyes. I mean, this is more creative. You can change how things look because obviously emotions, they impact the eyebrow shape. So if you have a different emotion, maybe happy or sad, then this should be a different shape in the eyebrow. But I'm just going to curve this a bit. And then I'm actually going to offset this. So right now, if I look at TY, I should actually already offset, right? Yeah. So I put this in frame 0. So that's behind. This is frame 1. So they're not the same. The timing is different. You even maybe drag this one. Let's see how it looks for now. Yeah, you see how it looks nicer? It feels like the eyebrow is kind of dragging. There we go. Looks nice. Cool. And then this controller is in the middle. Do we want to animate this one? I think for now we'll leave that one because that's not really impacting the blink too much. Now, if there was a controller here, sometimes they have a controller here, like this position here, which impacts sort of the nose. I would animate that if there was one. There was in the other rig, but for this rig there isn't, so I'm not going to do it. But I think for now that is kind of how I would do the vanilla blink. I mean, that's basically done now. I mean, you can play with the timing a bit more if you feel you need to adjust things. Everything's connected and it feels pretty good. And maybe you could take the cheek, do 1 foot offset as well, because that was just dragging slightly. So here we have the blink. I mirrored it over to the other side and I just did a very simple head turn. That's all I did. And I think as a starting point for animation, or a blink at least, this is something you can use as input when needed. Of course, you might have to adjust the eyebrows for different expressions. You may need to have anticipation poses for some of the bigger movements. But just the blink itself, I think this is how you can do something quite quickly and then copy and paste it to different parts of your animation. Okay, thanks for watching. I hope that was useful. If there's anything that was confusing, please leave me a comment. And please also subscribe to the channel. It really helps me. In the coming days, I'm going to be starting to stream a little bit. I'm probably doing more personal work, not so much tutorials. But if you want to watch me work and just hang out with me, that'd be awesome. Also, I'm starting a review series as well. If anyone wants feedback on any type of shot, bouncing balls or dragons, acting shots or body mechanics, please do let me know. And you can buy me a coffee in the link down below for £5 or $5 or so. And I will then give you a 10-minute or so video review of your work. Please comment for more details and I'll get in touch with you. But yeah, if that was useful, please do subscribe to the channel. It does really help me as I'm trying to grow a bit more. And please join me on my journey. And yeah, good luck with any work that you're doing right now. Thank you and goodbye.